Hello, welcome. I'm so happy that you're able to join me for this presentation. You know how you read a lot on social media, and you've probably been told yourself from other paralegals in the office, so you're new to litigation or fairly new, and you know how they say, well, just give it time. You got to put in time. It takes about 10 years for you to feel good about what you're doing and to be successful as a litigation paralegal. Yeah, that's wrong. They're wrong. I'm here today to tell you that there is another way. It does not take 10 years. It does not take 20 years for you to be a successful litigation paralegal. Hi, I'm Ann Pearson, founder of the Paralegal Boot Camp, and that's what I do. I help paralegals, particularly litigation paralegals, change the trajectory of their career and put it on a fast track. You know why I do that? Because I don't believe that being a successful paralegal involves just putting in time, like it's a jail sentence or something. I don't believe that. And in fact, I know it to be not true. Back when I was a paralegal manager, I had a group of attorneys who needed to hire paralegals for their products liability team. And they were limited in what they could charge per hour for the paralegals. So they asked me to hire some experienced paralegals. And I looked at the numbers and said, we really need to hire entry-level paralegals. Let me hire 2 entry-level paralegals. I will personally train them from the ground up, and then we'll be able to be okay on that billing number. Well, I did that. I hired 2 paralegals. One didn't even have their paralegal certificate yet. Neither of them had experience. I put them through a 1-year training program where we met every week. I gave them assignments. I showed them what to do on a case from start to finish, from the complaint through the trial. And you know what happened? A couple years later, those attorneys, the ones who were hesitant to hire an entry-level paralegal, those attorneys were calling those paralegals their rockstar paralegals. 2 years, not 10. In 2 years. See, it takes a decade or two to see the success that you want as a paralegal if you rely on other paralegals and attorneys in the office to get the training that you need, and if you don't have the right mindset. So I'm going to show you my litigation paralegal career accelerator framework. And in it, I'm going to show you that it's more than just skills. Yeah, skills are important, but it's also mindset, behaviors, and skills. So today I'm going to talk about some mindsets that could change the path of your career. And I'm going to show you some things that you can do right now, today, to help with that. All right, let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen with you and then maybe have to pop in and out, but I'll have the whole screen available so that if you want to do screenshots of it, to put together a list for yourself, but I'll have other things for you as well, other resources. All right, let's jump right in. Okay, here we go. 3 cornerstones to fast track your success. The Litigation Paralegal Blueprint. So in this workshop, I'm going to be discussing these 3 areas that are part of a framework, sort of, that I developed as part of the Litigation Paralegal Boot Camp program. Before I tell you what it is, let me tell you why. I developed this framework because 30 years ago, I was there. Where? The place every new litigation paralegal is at when they start their career. And it's not just litigation. So back in 1992, I was a new litigation paralegal who sat at my desk that first day of my new job, super excited to be starting this new paralegal career, but also terrified because I realized I had no idea what I was doing. I wondered, what exactly am I supposed to be doing? They taught me in school how to write a legal research memo using the IRAC method. They told me the importance of knowing the rules of civil procedure, and they made me memorize legal terminology. Remember that? The problem was no one was knocking on my door telling me to write an IRAC memo. The other problem was that the other paralegals didn't have the time to show me what to do, and neither did the attorney. It's literally like you're on a deserted island talking to a soccer ball named Wilson. Seriously, that's what it feels like sometimes. So we're not going to go through this whole framework because this whole framework is part of the 15-hour course, the Litigation Boot Camp. But for this free workshop, I'm going to talk a little bit about the mindset part. Let's first make sure you're in the right place. You are if you're new or fairly new to litigation and you're still waiting for that on-the-job training. And you don't want to wait a decade to see success in your career. That's like what I said in the introduction. Paralegals will tell you, well, that's okay that you're struggling, you're brand new, and just put in the time. Give it 10 years. You'll feel more confident and you'll see some success by then. I don't want to wait 10 years to see success. And I don't want you to either. It's kind of like playing whack-a-mole. That's what I call it. As a new paralegal, you're constantly just like, put this fire out, put that fire out. I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but the attorney's telling me to do it. So I'm just going to do it. This is a truly exhausting and unnecessary way to work. Not to mention the fact that when you're waiting for someone else to show you how to do something, you're letting them have control over the success of your career. Now, this workshop might not be for you if you expect that in the 30, 40, 50 minutes that we're going to be together, I'm going to be able to give you everything you need and without you having to put in some kind of work to get there. This isn't a buy this bottle of pills and in 30 days you'll be down 30 pounds kind of thing. I'd also add that this probably isn't for you if you've been a litigation paralegal for more than a decade, because this really is geared more towards litigation paralegals who have less than 10 years of experience, who don't want to put in their time and wait 10 years to get there. Now, this also might not be for you if you're what I call a unicorn in the paralegal profession. You're someone who has a great paralegal mentor who has shared their wealth of knowledge with you, who has taught you everything you need to know to be a successful paralegal, and they're rooting for you on the sidelines. Or if you work for an attorney who's showing you exactly what they need done on their cases and exactly when and how to get those things done, then you might just be a unicorn. They do exist. Every once in a while, I'll meet a paralegal or be on one of these workshops live, and they'll tell me they work for an attorney like that. I've even interviewed a couple of them on the podcast, so they do exist. Or every once in a while, I'll also meet someone who had a great mentor who didn't just take them to lunch the first day, like this situation, right? Do any of these sound familiar? So your school said they'd have on-the-job training for you, that you were going to be learning more once you got on the job. Or your mentor took you to lunch your first day and you haven't seen them since. Yeah, that was me. I'm raising my hand for that one. And or the attorneys just don't have the time to train you. And they really don't. They want to practice law. They don't want to be a paralegal trainer. In other words, you learn by trial and error and hope that the mistakes don't cost you to lose your job. With each mistake, you start to wonder if you're cut out to be a paralegal. You don't want to bother people. You don't want to ask too many questions. You're not alone. So here's just an example of, you've probably seen these in some of the paralegal groups, just a few of the posts. This person says, I graduated a few years ago with an associate's for legal assistant. I had a very brief experience at a law firm after graduation. They gave me no training and everything I did was wrong. I asked questions and I asked to be trained, but they wouldn't help. And they said I should know what I'm doing, but I didn't. So we, quote, parted ways. And another one who jumped into this group and asked for some tutoring because she was struggling. She said, I just need help at work, like understanding deadlines and basic stuff like that. Paralegals at work don't really want me asking questions to them. Why not wait for that paralegal down the hall to show you how to be a great paralegal? Because it's never going to happen. Either one, they don't have the time. They truly don't have the time. They have good intentions, but they're just too busy. Or two, even if they had the time, just because they're a great paralegal doesn't mean they know how to show you how to be a great paralegal. Maybe they're not a good trainer. Or three, they might have a scarcity mindset and have no intention of ever showing you how to be a rockstar paralegal. Yeah, because they want to be the king of the block or the queen of the block, or they want to be the rock star paralegal in the firm. And they believe through this scarcity mindset that there can only be room for one rockstar paralegal. Here's a screenshot I took inside a paralegal group. A paralegal posted about being promoted to a senior paralegal position, and she's been assigned an assistant to help her. Yay! This assistant is a recent graduate from a paralegal school. Here are just two of the comments. The first one, congratulations. Be careful training that student too well. You don't want them to become your replacement. And someone else agreeing with that comment. Then another one, be careful they're not getting you to train somebody to take your job. Yes, it is a real mindset. And it's not just in the paralegal profession. So the scarcity mindset comes from someone who hoards resources like knowledge because of the fear that they can't be at the top if others are too. In other words, if you're the top paralegal in the firm, then they won't be anymore. It's something that you have to be aware of. I wasn't aware of it when I first started out. I was that naive 20-something-year-old who thought, these older paralegals were there to help me and that I could get questions answered through them. We all know how that works out. All right, I'm going to show you how to be a rockstar paralegal now, not 10 years from now. Now, it won't be immediate. It's not going to be today when you get off this workshop, but it's going to be soon. And it's definitely not going to be taking you 10 years. And in doing that, how to make six figures well before year 10, and how to feel confident, even if you're just starting your career. Because my goal for you is to break through every possible ceiling that has ever been set for the paralegal profession. I'm in this for you to win it. That's my goal at the Paralegal Boot Camp, is so that every paralegal can see great success in their profession and not have to just put in the time. So there are 3 keys to success for most litigation paralegals, and a lot of times we see it all focused on skills. So there's mindset, behaviors, and skills. The problem with focusing just on skills is that I can tell you in the last 30 years, I've met a lot of paralegals who had excellent, just superb skills. They weren't rockstar paralegals making 6 figures. They just weren't seeing the same success as some other paralegals who had less skills. The problem in focusing on just one of these areas, whether it's mindset, behaviors, or skills, when you focus on just one area, then the others are lacking. And it really does take all 3 of these. And notice how education is not on here. That's because, as you know, if you're working as a litigation paralegal, they don't teach you how to be a great litigation paralegal in any paralegal certificate program. And there are plenty of successful paralegals out there with no paralegal certificate whatsoever. Now, I am not advocating that someone should not get a paralegal certificate, not at all, because I think it'll limit your job opportunities if you do. But if you don't have one, that is not going to limit your level of success. Got to look at all 3 of these areas. So this is my Litigation Paralegal Career Accelerator framework. I use it inside the Litigation Paralegal Boot Camp. It has all 3 key areas and focusing on them early in your career. If you do this, I promise you, you will surpass every other paralegal with the same years of experience as you. Let me show you within each of these. The first one, and this is what we're going to talk about today, are the 3 pillars for the mindset: that you own your cases, you own your career, and that you can be a rockstar paralegal now, not later. That you have these 3 key behaviors. Now, we cover a lot more than that, but these are the 3 key ones: master time management, pay attention to detail, and be proactive. And then the skills: mastering the discovery phase, sharpening your technology skills, and leveling up your trial prep skills. This might be a little bit easier to read. So let's talk about mindset. And, I even start off the Litigation Paralegal Boot Camp with mindset, because without the mindset, this is not going to work. You have to start with the right mindset. And the first one that we're going to talk about today is that it doesn't take years. I will tell you that I had a very successful career as a paralegal. I was working on some of the biggest, most challenging cases out there, working for a very large firm, and I was the partner's right-hand person. He relied on me more than a team of associates. By the time I was in my 8th year, I was already making 6 figures. Now, that included my $10,000 to $15,000 performance bonuses. And that was around the year like 2000, 2001, maybe 2002 at the latest, because then I moved into management. So we're talking more than 20 years ago. I was at 6 figures in my 8th year and had been there. I don't know what the equivalent would be today, but, and this is a big but, I could have done so much more, so much quicker if someone would have told me about how important mindset is to a successful paralegal career. Back in the 90s, no one was talking about mindset. And if you're thinking, oh no, Anne, don't go into the foo-foo, like positive affirmations, think positive and positive things will happen. Please stick with me. That's not where I'm going with this. The first one. So they say to you, it takes years of experience. You have to have the mindset and truly believe it. That's what I teach inside the Litigation Boot Camp, is how to get that mindset and keep it to where you will always instinctively say, no, it does not. When you see that on social media, when you hear it in other people's voices, the senior paralegal down the hall who's been there for 30 years says, oh, don't worry, it just takes years of experience. In your mind and or out loud, you're going to be saying, no, it does not for me. And it's not about your years of experience. That's what's important. It's all about your mindset, behaviors, and skills. So what is a rockstar paralegal? Maybe I should have defined that a little bit to begin with. A rockstar paralegal to me is someone who's at the top of their game, working on things that are challenging and rewarding. They're highly respected professionals. And yes, usually with that comes the money. There is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to make more money and that you can also be happy at work while you're doing it. Now, it could also mean something else to other people. It could mean you get that window office, you get to travel, go out of town for trials, whatever your definition is. But when you are a rockstar paralegal and you feel it, you know it. There's not a question. You don't really need the definition. Do you know how many paralegals I've met in the last 30 years who had 20 years of experience, who were not even good at their job? Maybe you even know a few. So keep in mind, it's not about years of experience. It's mindset, behaviors, and skills. So how many years of experience do you think it's going to take you to be a rockstar paralegal? 1, 2, maybe? I want to say shoot for no more than 3 years. No more than 3 years. That's your mindset 1. If you wait for someone else to advance your career for you, then you're going to be waiting a long time. And yeah, you will have to put in that decade or 2, but you don't have to wait for someone else, which leads me to my next mindset, which is you're taking ownership of your career. What does that mean? Well, it's not about filling your file cabinet with CLE certificates. You know, one of the problems that I see too often is you get that certification right after your paralegal certificate. You get that NALA or NIFBA or NALS certification. And then all you do for the rest of your career is fill your file cabinet with those CLE certificates. And most of the time, what I see and why it's the bigger problem is when you're just focused on CLE, you don't really care what it is, especially if it's free. I get questions all the time from people for this workshop even. Is this free workshop CLE approved? No. And people will not take it just based on the fact that they're not going to get a CLE certificate. And they miss out on some great information. A good example would be, let's say you really need to learn how to use Microsoft Excel better. And the quickest and easiest way for you to do that is to jump on YouTube and watch a few like 10 or 15-minute videos. You're not going to get a CLE certificate for that. But is it going to make you more valuable at work? Make your work easier? Yes. That's why it's not about filling your file cabinet. Here's another reason why you don't want to wait. I should have pulled this slide up a little bit earlier, but I just realized I got to get this one out here. And why you take ownership of your career. This was a post in a paralegal Facebook group. The lawyers I worked for never trained, taught me, or give me any direction, was upset the way I did things, so I was fired Monday. I'm beyond upset to the point of just giving up in the legal field. I do a dang good job doing it on my own, and now this. This is what's important to me. I've got one more slide that's similar to that I want to show you, and this is why it's important to take ownership of your career. I see it way too often, and it saddens me deeply. Paralegals who invested a lot of time and money to get a paralegal certificate, so excited to start their career, they think they're going to get training, they start their job, and they get fired. Sometimes, like this person, after only 11 days, sometimes in the first year or two. And like this person says at the bottom, my self-esteem is crushed and I am never going to look for a job as a paralegal again. I hate seeing that. I hate seeing that so much because it's all preventable. Every bit of it is preventable. So having the mindset that this is my career, I own it. I've put time and money and hard work into getting this paralegal certificate. And now I'm going to protect my career. What do I have to do in order to do that? So one of the things I would suggest for this mindset is to put together, and maybe some of you have joined that Litigation Paralegal Professional Development download. Something like this you could put together. You could do a screenshot here, but I strongly urge you to make a plan. Make a written plan on what do you feel you're lacking? What category of skill are you lacking, or mindset? How do you plan on acquiring that skill? How much time is going to be needed? When are you going to put it on your calendar? What's it going to cost? Will the firm reimburse you? And when was it completed? Make a plan. Protect your career. And I would look at it not just like, what skills and behaviors and things do I need for this job? Look at it more, what do I need for my career? Because that's what I'm protecting here. I always say, focus more on career security than just job security, meaning you're continually taking courses and advancing your skills, whether it's skills that you are going to currently use at your job or that will make you more employable in the future. So what's one thing you could do, you could put on your to-do list for this week? You're watching this, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day of the week it is that you're watching this workshop. What one thing could you put on your to-do list this week that would be an investment in your career? I want you to put it on your calendar, schedule time for it, even if it's only 15 minutes. All right, and number 3, taking ownership of your cases. This is a mindset, right? You're now a litigation paralegal and you're going to take ownership of your cases. Well, the only way to do that is to know what's going on in your cases. You have to know what's going on and see everything that comes in the door in order for you to know, oh, I should start preparing the deposition notebooks for next month's depositions now. I don't need to wait until the attorney comes to me and tells me the day before that they need something. Because the biggest thing that I see that holds paralegals back, even if you're a good litigation paralegal, the problem is if you get stuck in this taskmaster mindset instead of the mindset that you own your cases. In other words, you receive an assignment from the attorney, you follow the directions, if you get any direction or guidance. Maybe you have to do some guesswork. You rush to complete the project on time. Then you breathe a sigh of relief. Whew, got through that one. And then you wait for the next rush project. In other words, whack-a-mole. That's not a way to become a rockstar paralegal. Sure, you'll survive. Maybe you'll learn a few things along the way. Hopefully not make too many mistakes. And even if you do make some mistakes, they're not bad enough to get you fired. That's not what I want for you. That is not a successful paralegal career. That's how it will take you a decade or two to feel like a confident litigation paralegal who's also earning lots of money. That's how it takes a decade or two. So when you hear people say that to you and you say to yourself, no, it's not going to take me a decade or two.
It will if you work as a taskmaster, if you have the mindset that it will. I want to show you this from Sarah Davies. It's a really long testimonial, but it's worth the read because what she says is so very true for most new litigation paralegals. In fact, think about it if you have felt this way. She writes, the challenge I've encountered since completing my paralegal certificate 2 years ago is, how shall I put this? Really just not knowing what my job is supposed to be, trying to reinvent the wheel without confirmation of whether I'm doing it correctly. On-the-job training has meant I'm going to make my best guess under pressure with little or no guidance. And that's hard for me because I care deeply about doing good work. Yeah, we all do. And that's what can make it so frustrating. We want to do good work. We just don't know what good work, what is that? What's the definition? But I love this next section, and kind of because I like putting together jigsaw puzzles, but providing legal support feels like trying to assemble a 5,000-piece jigsaw puzzle without the picture on the outside of the box. Yeah. So you can probably relate to every one of those things that she says. So here are two options. I mean, I guess there's also a third option. A third option would be you try to piece together tips from YouTube, Google, Facebook groups. You could listen to my podcast and get some of my free resources that I give out, and you could piece it together. So number one, as a new paralegal, wait for them to show you. It's just not an option. Or two, you could follow a proven roadmap, one that's been taken by hundreds of paralegals like you. And this is me being your guide with that roadmap. So enrollment is open for the Litigation Paralegal Boot Camp. And in it, it is literally the only program of its kind where I walk you through every step of the litigation process so that you can confidently manage your cases from start to finish without waiting for the person down the hall to show you their secrets. Everything inside it has a purpose because we know it's not just about the skills. Now, we are covering skills in the course, but we also want to cover mindset and behaviors. Completing the program will accelerate your career. All right, so I want to just give you a brief overview. I'm not going to go deep into every single thing that's in each module, but I want to give you an idea, and you can just take a quick snapshot of this because this is why I put it in a checklist form. Whether you join me in this course or not, you could use this as part of your checklist of your professional development. So if you say, well, I can't afford to join you in the course and my firm doesn't pay for CLE, then take a picture of this and say, all right, how am I going to go get those 5 skills or those 5 mindsets and use it as a checklist? For example, maybe you've got access to LinkedIn Learning, and you could watch a 1 or 2 hour training on just general project management. Yeah, it's not going to apply specifically to litigation, but you would still learn something. All right, the next one, behaviors. Again, take that snapshot and put it on your professional development planning list because behaviors is a really important part. We just touched on a little bit of the mindset. And in fact, the mindset module 1 inside the course is about hour and a half, maybe 2 hours max. So it's a quick one to get through, but it's a lot deeper dive than I could go into in the 30 minutes that we had today. But so these are some of the main areas that we cover in module 2 for behaviors. And then we move into the very first phase, right? The pleadings in motion phase. What to do the minute the complaint comes in, how you can be the proactive case manager. And then in module 4, we jump into the discovery phase, which is, of course, the busiest phase for a litigation paralegal and where you can be the biggest asset to the attorneys you work for. And we want to be able to do things like draft discovery requests from scratch if we have to. And module 5, one of my favorites, getting ready for trial. So module 5 is about 5 hours to get through. Module 4 is also, module 4 is maybe closer to 4 hours. Module 5 it's got a lot of information in there because even if you never go to trial, it is so helpful. I hear from paralegals all the time. I don't ever go to trial. I haven't been to trial in the 3 years since I took your course, but knowing what is expected of me and what needs to be done for trial I'm now managing the other phases of my cases even better. Diane Miles took the Litigation Boot Camp a couple of years ago. And what's interesting is this was before I added group coaching calls. So she wasn't even a part of that. And she wrote, "Best investment I've made in my paralegal career since college. No question." All right. So I know you're asking, oh my gosh, all right, how much is it? You can either do 3 payments of $250 or pay in full. You can do that for $697. Now, before you say, "And I can't afford that, I can't even do the 3 payments of $250, stick with me, because I'm going to show you how, even though you think your firm might not pay for it, I think they will. And I'll show you how you can do that. One of the things that you want to start with, especially with an attorney who maybe you're at a solo attorney and money could be tight, but even if you're at a bigger firm, when you ask your boss to pay for a course like this, you want to make it about them. So, and that's where the screenshots of what's in each of the modules will help them. You want to make it about them. What's the advantage to them? How is you taking the course going to help them? And that's where you go through literally step by step of what's in the course. So I'm going to learn how to manage my time better. I'm going to pay attention to detail. I'm going to be more efficient, so I'll be able to get stuff done. I'll be able to proactively manage your cases, so you don't have to remember to tell me to do things every little step of the way. Will it eliminate every task-based assignment? No, it won't eliminate everything. You're not going to know every single thing that the attorney has on their mind, unless you could read their mind. But you will be proactively moving cases forward without waiting for them. And that's a huge advantage to an attorney, to have a paralegal that does that. Second, you want to ask with confidence. That might seem like a no-brainer, but I like to remind paralegals of that, because you really want to go in there with the mindset of, I want to take this course and I want to be a rockstar paralegal, and I'm going to. And part of that is the mindset of, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And what that means is you might think to yourself, my attorney's not going to pay for this. If you go into their office with that mindset, they probably won't. If you don't ask them, and you might be thinking, well, they won't pay for it anyways. If you don't ask them, then they're not going to pay for it, right? Because they don't even know that you want to take it. So go in with the mindset of, what's the worst they're going to say? No. They're not going to say no, and you're fired for even asking. In fact, what I have found in my experience is that it relieves the attorney, because they know if they hired you right out of school, or you've only got 2 or 3 years of experience, they know you don't know certain things, and they know they should spend time training you, but they don't have the time, and then they feel guilty. I've literally heard from paralegals say that has taken a huge burden off of my attorney. And that's the other thing that you could maybe add here if you wanted, like a 4th bullet point is, tell them it's going to relieve them of the time that it might take for them to train you.
I hope that you're able to join me in the program and let me be your coach for the next year. Let me help you change the trajectory of your paralegal career. And if you can't join me inside the program, I hope that you've walked away today with a different mindset around how long it can take you to be a successful litigation paralegal. Doesn't have to take 10 years, I promise you. And if you can't join me in the course, you should also know that we put out a podcast once a week, almost every week, and blog articles on our website. Just do a Google search for free paralegal resources, and you'll be able to get access to those. In the meantime, I hope to see you inside the course. Bye for now.